What if I told you that, at this very moment, while you're watching this video, something or someone has already noticed you? It might seem like just another mysterious animated story, full of glitches and strange effects. But what if it's not just that? What if these small errors in reality, these flaws in time, aren't just part of a script, but rather signs of something bigger, something that observes, learns, and reacts? Perhaps you've felt this before. That strange feeling of déjà vu, as if a moment were repeating itself, or when something changes place without explanation, as if the world had glitched for a second. Have you ever experienced this? That feeling that time failed, or worse, that you noticed something you shouldn't have. Now imagine this taken to the extreme. A world where time doesn't follow a logical line, where past, present, and future blend together. Where glitches in reality aren't just visual flaws, but cracks in something much deeper. It's exactly in this kind of universe that this story begins. A place where everything seems normal, until it isn't. At first, it's subtle, almost imperceptibly, a detail out of place, a second that repeats itself, a look that lingers too long. Small things that most people would ignore. But not everyone can ignore it. Some people begin to notice. And when you realize it, there's no way to unsee it anymore. The most unsettling thing isn't the glitch itself. It's not the broken time, nor the paradoxes that begin to emerge. What's truly disturbing is the feeling that these errors aren't random, as if there were a pattern, as if something were behind it. Controlling, adjusting, correcting, a system, but not an ordinary system. It's not something you can touch, turn off, or easily escape. It's something invisible, silent, and extremely attentive. A system that observes every movement, every choice, every thought. And most disturbing of all, it begins to react when someone notices its existence. Think about it. How many stories have you seen about characters trapped in loops, trying to escape a broken reality? How many times have you watched something like that and thought, that's just fiction? But what if the line between fiction and reality isn't as clear as it seems? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. This isn't just a story about 2D animation, glitches, or visual effects. It's an experience, a growing sense of unease, curiosity, and doubt. A narrative where every detail might have a hidden meaning, and where every flaw might actually be a message. And maybe, just maybe, you're not here by chance. Perhaps this video was shown to you. Perhaps the system has already detected something different. And if that's the case, then what comes next isn't just part of the story. It's the moment when everything starts to get out of control. And it is precisely at this point that everything starts to get more personal. Because the more you pay attention, the more these patterns seem to make sense. As if the glitches weren't just flaws, but attempts at communication. Small, almost imperceptible signals trying to grab the attention of those who can see beyond the obvious. And then, an inevitable question arises. Why do some people notice them, and others don't? Perhaps you've felt this in some way before. That strangeness that's hard to explain, as if something is out of place, even when everything seems normal on the outside. And if this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has struck you the most so far. I really want to understand to what extent this is also part of your experience, because the more people share it, the more this pattern begins to reveal itself. And it's not just about commenting for the sake of commenting. Your participation here is what makes this type of content grow and reach more people who have also experienced these mistakes in reality, but never knew how to explain them. Sometimes, someone on the other side of the screen might read your account and realize that you're not alone in this. And if you're enjoying this build-up, this sense of mystery that gradually intensifies, leave a like. Not just as support, but as a sign that you want more stories like this to continue to exist. Because, in the end, every interaction you make helps this content get past the algorithm and reach those who might need to see it. And if you're not subscribed yet, maybe now is a good time to do so. Not only to catch up on more mysterious animation, paradoxes, and reality glitches, but because, in a way, it also connects you with everything that's still to come. As if you were choosing to continue, even without knowing exactly where it will lead. And that's where things get really interesting, because the more involved you become, the more the line between observer and participant in the story seems to blur. Retail. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Imagine a completely ordinary scenario, a simple, almost automatic routine. Waking up, looking at your phone, following the same routes, seeing the same people, repeating the same decisions every day. Everything seems to fit perfectly, predictable, even comfortable. This is the kind of reality that no one questions, because it works, or at least it seems to work. But that's precisely where the first signs begin. These aren't grand events, nor are they clearly absurd. They're details, small flaws that go unnoticed by most, but which, for those who pay attention, carry a certain weight. An object that wasn't there before. A sound that repeats itself identically. A moment that seems too familiar, as if it had already happened in exactly the same way. And at first, the mind tries to justify it. It's just distraction, tiredness, information overload. We live at a fast pace, full of stimuli, and it's easy to blame that. But there comes a point where these explanations start to hold up no longer, because it's not just about what changes, it's about the feeling that remains. A kind of silent unease, as if something were happening behind the scenes, beyond the reach of ordinary perception. And the more you observe, the more it seems that these errors follow a pattern, a hidden logic, a concealed truth that begins to reveal itself little by little. And that changes everything, because it's no longer just about reality. It's about awareness, about perceiving what has always been there, but was never questioned. It's the beginning of an inner transformation, a change of mindset where you stop simply living with the flow and start seeing the cracks in it. And perhaps the most intriguing thing of all is this: these failures don't seem random. They appear at specific moments, as if they were responses, as if something were reacting to your own decisions, your attention, your journey. Now think about this. What if this normal reality is just a layer? What if everything that seems stable is actually a construct full of invisible adjustments? Comment below. Does this make sense for me now? I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there comes a point when you can no longer ignore it. What once seemed like just a strange detail begins to repeat itself with uncomfortably precise precision. It's no longer a vague impression. It's something happening again, in the same way. A second that returns, a movement that repeats itself identically, a phrase you're sure you've heard before, exactly the same words, in the same tone, at the same instant. And this is where the first glitch stops being subtle. It's not something grandiose, it's not a complete break from reality. It's worse. It's subtle enough to generate doubt, but real enough to have an impact, because it directly affects your perception, your trust in what is real. And when that happens, the mind goes into conflict. You try to rationalize, you try to find logic. Maybe it's a failing memory, maybe it's a coincidence. But deep down, something doesn't add up. There's a growing feeling that this shouldn't be happening, as if you're seeing something that should remain hidden in the background. And the more attention you pay, the more these small events begin to emerge at specific moments, as if there were a direct connection between what you observe and what happens next. This completely changes how you approach your decisions, your journey, even your own mindset. Because now it's not just about spotting a mistake, it's about realizing that the error reacts to your presence. And this opens up a disturbing possibility. What if these glitches aren't flaws, but tests, small adjustments, as if something were calibrating the reality around you, measuring your reaction, analyzing your level of perception? Now think about the impact of this. If reality can answer, then there's something behind it. Something that observes, learns, and perhaps even anticipates its next steps. And when that idea starts to make sense, even for a second, there's no going back. Write this down. I noticed the glee, TCH. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because after the first glitch, reality doesn't simply return to normal. On the contrary, it begins to bend in ways that are increasingly difficult to ignore. What was once a small error now evolves into something more complex, more disconcerting. The patterns cease to be subtle and begin to directly interfere with how you perceive time, choices, and even yourself. This is where the paradoxes begin to emerge. Situations that shouldn't exist begin to happen with frightening ease. You see something happening. Even before it happens, you have the feeling of having already made a decision you haven't even made yet, as if your own timeline were getting scrambled, mixing past, present, and future possibilities in a single instant. And the strangest thing is that this doesn't come with a warning. It just happens. A reflex that reacts before you move. A memory of something you haven't yet experienced. Or even the feeling of being in the same place, at the same time, being two different versions of yourself. At this point, it's no longer about understanding, it's about dealing with the impact of these revelations. Because your mind tries to keep up, but logic begins to fail. And when logic fails, something else takes over. Doubt. That silent doubt that grows little by little and changes your mindset, your way of seeing everything around you. As if reality ceased to be a reliable foundation and became just a fragile layer, full of invisible adjustments happening behind the scenes. And if that's true, then every decision you make may not be as free as it seems. Each choice may have already been predicted, or even repeated. This completely transforms your journey, because now it's not just about living, but about perceiving what lies behind each event, each feeling, each coincidence, as if you were getting closer and closer to a hidden truth that has always been there, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And the closer you get to that understanding, the more reality itself seems to react. Write this down. I'm starting to realize. Before now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there comes a point where you can no longer treat all of this as coincidence or an isolated mistake. Patterns accumulate, events begin to connect, and what once seemed chaotic begins to reveal a structure, a hidden logic, working behind the scenes, organizing every detail in a way that you only notice when you're already too involved to ignore. It is at this moment that the idea of the system ceases to be a suspicion and becomes a reality, not something visible, not something you can touch or point to directly, but something that manifests itself through the glitches, the paradoxes, the repetitions, as if each error were, in fact, a signature, a trace left by something operating behind reality, adjusting, correcting, observing. And when that realization arises, it completely changes your mindset, because now it's no longer about understanding what's happening, it's about accepting that something is happening, an invisible structure that reacts to your decisions, that accompanies your journey, that may have already foreseen every step you believe you are choosing on your own. This creates a silent but profound impact. You start to question your own actions. Was this choice really yours? Or was it induced, guided, adjusted in some way? And the more you think about it, the more you realize that the signs were always there, just hidden in small details that previously seemed irrelevant. And perhaps the most unsettling thing of all is this: the system doesn't seem to act randomly. He replies. It responds to your attention, your perception, your consciousness, as if the mere fact that you're noticing is enough to activate something. As if by acknowledging its existence, you've crossed an invisible line within this journey, a line that separates those who live without questioning from those who begin to see the hidden truth behind everything. And from here on out, you're not the only one watching. Write this down. I saw this. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the system is one thing, but understanding that it also understands you changes everything. This is where the journey ceases to be merely internal and takes on a different weight, almost impossible to ignore. It's no longer just about analyzing signals or piecing together patterns. It's about feeling that there's a response on the other side. And that answer doesn't come as a clear voice or a straightforward explanation. It comes in the form of a presence, a strange feeling of being watched, even when no one is around. A gaze that seems to pierce the screen. A moment when everything becomes too quiet, as if something is waiting for you to react. And at that point, reality ceases to be a backdrop and begins to feel like an interface, as if there were an invisible connection between you and all of this. And that's where the breakdown happens, not in an explosive way, but subtly enough to make an impact. A moment when the character, or perhaps even you, realizes that you are not alone within your own experience, that there is a layer beyond, something watching, interpreting, perhaps even influencing every step of this journey. This affects one's mindset in a profound way, because it's no longer about what you see, it's about who is seeing you see. And when that idea takes hold, even for a second, it completely transforms how you perceive reality, your decisions, and even your role within it all. It's as if the line between observer and participant ceases to exist. And the more you try to understand, the closer this presence seems to get. As if the simple act of questioning were enough to get your attention. As if by reaching this level of awareness, you had activated something that can no longer be ignored. And if that's true, then maybe this was never just a video. Write this down. He knows I'm who. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because once that awareness sets in, standing still no longer seems like an option. An almost instinctive need arises to escape, to break free from this invisible pattern that seems to control everything behind the scenes. But the problem is, the more you try to escape, the more reality seems to reorganize itself around you. It's as if every attempt at change is anticipated. You decide to do something different, change course, alter a simple decision, but somehow, the result leads you back to the same point. No matter how much you try to deviate from the path, there's always a subtle adjustment happening, as if the system recalculates everything in real time, keeping you within a cycle. And this creates a type of conflict that is much deeper than it seems, because it's not a physical fight, it's a fight against the very structure of reality, against something you don't see, but feel the impact of with every choice. This affects your mindset, begins to erode your confidence in your own decisions, and transforms your journey into something much more intense. You start testing limits. You try to act outside the norm, break the logic, make unexpected decisions. But the more you push, the more the errors increase. Glitches appear more frequently. Time seems to become even more misaligned, and that feeling of being watched intensifies. It was as if the system were reacting directly to your attempt to leave. And perhaps that's the most unsettling point of all. There doesn't seem to be a clear way out. Every move generates a response. Every choice creates a new adjustment, as if you were trapped in a labyrinth that rebuilds itself with every step, preventing any real escape. But at the same time, something inside you keeps trying, because ignoring it is no longer possible. And it is in this confrontation between her desire for freedom and the invisible control that everything begins to reach a new level of impact. A level where the rules cease to make sense and the revelations begin to become even more intense. Write this down. I tried Sarah. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there comes a point where it's no longer possible to distinguish between cause and consequence. Reality, which previously seemed unstable, now begins to truly collapse. Not suddenly, but like a structure that gradually gives way, revealing layers that should never have been seen. Paradoxes cease to be isolated events and begin to occur simultaneously. You see different versions of the same scene overlapping, as if multiple possibilities were happening simultaneously. A moment repeats itself, but with slight alterations. A decision leads to two paths, and somehow, you experience both. It's as if time has completely lost its linearity, creating a chaotic mix of experiences. And the impact of this isn't just visual. It's internal. Your perception begins to falter. Your sense of identity fragments. Because if there are multiple versions of the same choice, the same action, then which one is truly you? This doubt isn't just philosophical. It's felt, almost like a constant pressure on your conscience. And that's where the transformation intensifies. Because it's no longer about understanding the system, but about surviving it, about maintaining some form of stability while everything around seems to crumble in unpredictable patterns. Your mindset is tested to the limit, your decisions lose their bearings, and the journey becomes something completely out of control. But even in this chaos, there is something curious. A feeling that all of this still follows a logic, a distorted logic, hidden in the background, but present nonetheless, as if this collapse weren't a mistake, but a phase, a necessary process to reveal something greater, a hidden truth that only appears when all previous structures cease to make sense, and perhaps that is exactly what is happening now. It's not the end of reality. It's the final break before an even deeper revelation. Write this down. Nothing makes sense anymore. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when everything seems to have lost its meaning, that's exactly when something begins to reveal itself. Not clearly, not as a direct answer, but as a perception that emerges amidst the chaos. As if all those flaws, all the paradoxes, all the distortions, weren't random, but part of a much larger construction, a construction that involves you. And that's the turning point. Because until now, it seemed like you were just observing, trying to understand, reacting to what was happening. But what if, in fact, you've always been a part of it? What if the system was never just around you, but also inside your own perception, shaping how you interpret every detail of this journey? This completely changes the impact of everything, because it's no longer about escaping, it's about recognizing that each glitch may have been an attempt at communication, that each repetition may have been an adjustment, that each strange sensation may have been a sign that you were getting closer to something that few can see. And the most unsettling thing of all, perhaps the system never hid anything. Perhaps he was waiting for the exact moment when you would be ready to realize, as if this whole sequence of events were, in fact, a process of preparation, a silent transformation happening behind the scenes of your consciousness, guiding your decisions to this point. If that's true, then this journey was never random. She was directed. Each choice, each doubt, each moment of discomfort played a specific role, like pieces of a puzzle that are only now beginning to fit together, revealing a hidden truth that was always there, but only makes sense when you get to this point. And perhaps the most disturbing thing is this: in realizing all of this, you are also realized in return. Write this down. Now I understand it. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because after this revelation, nothing truly ends. On the contrary, everything expands in an even more unsettling way. The feeling isn't one of conclusion, but of continuity. As if you'd walked through a door, but had no idea what lay on the other side. And perhaps the strangest thing is realizing that this door was always there, hidden in the details, in the flaws, in the small signs you almost ignored. But now, ignoring it is no longer an option, because from the moment you realize it, something changes. Not only in how you perceive reality, but in how reality seems to respond to you. Small adjustments continue to happen, but now, with a different intensity, almost as if there were a silent confirmation that you have reached this point in the journey. And this creates an impact that is difficult to explain. It's not fear, it's not curiosity, it's a mixture of both. A feeling of being inside something bigger, something that keeps moving, adapting, reorganizing itself behind the scenes. As if the story weren't just being told to you, but also with you. And perhaps that's exactly what makes it also disturbing, because there isn't a clear line between where it begins and where it ends. What seemed to be just a narrative now carries a layer of reality that seeps into your perception, your decisions, your very way of interpreting what is happening. What if all of this is still happening right now? While you listen, while you think, while you try to understand. Perhaps this was never truly the end. Perhaps it's just another cycle beginning, with slight variations, minor adjustments, like everything that came before. And if that's the case, then the real question is no longer what is happening, but what happens from here. Write this down. This doesn't end here. And if you've made it this far, perhaps it already says more than any explanation. Because not everyone perseveres when reality starts to feel uncomfortable, when certainties begin to crumble and the questions outweigh the answers. Somehow, something about that hooked you, and that's already part of your own journey within this experience. If this type of content resonates with you, consider subscribing to the channel. Not as an obligation, but as a way to continue exploring these ideas, these revelations, and everything that can still be perceived beyond the obvious. Each video here is crafted with that same care, to provoke, connect, and perhaps make you see something new. And if at any point during this video you felt that strange sense of recognition, like something clicked inside you, leave a like. It's a simple way to show that this connection happened, and it also helps this content reach other people who may be going through the same thing without even realizing it yet. Now, I want to know from you. If you've stayed this far, comment, "I'm with you until the end," just so I can recognize who truly made it through this entire journey. And before you leave, there's a video here that connects directly to everything we've explored so far. It delves even deeper into these ideas and can completely change how you interpret these signs. Click on it and stay with me there.